Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. I'm Mr. Giant and I'm back with some more vibe for you. Yes, I. And we have one here that somebody suggested that I watch, you know what I mean, and things. So we're going to go ahead and watch this one. It's called Analysis. Sun Tzu's art of war and the seventh ancient Chinese military classics. I hope I'm pronouncing the last one right. Sun Tzu. Hope that's right. But anyway, I ain't going Babylon here. Let's go ahead and YouTube and simmer and see what this is all about. I'm excited here.
I am sure a lot of you know about Sun Tzu's Art of War.
Sun
It's
Tzu.
a classic war manual written almost 2,500 years ago that is still considered relevant today and highly praised by various military and business leaders throughout history. What many do not know, however, is that Sun Tzu's Art of War is not the only book that is considered as military classic in ancient China. It is just one among seven. So in this video, I'm going to compare and analyze the differences between the seven military classics.
Let's see what they say.
Adding the Roman military classic De Re Militari into the mix, so we can better understand the differences between the Chinese military philosophy and the West.
Come on, cool history bros.
The seven military classics were compiled in the early period of the Song dynasty, around the 11th century CE, when it became required reading for imperial officials. The books, however, were actually written centuries before that. Taigong's Six Secret Teachings, the oldest book in the collection, for example, was claimed to have been written in the 11th century BCE, but historians were only able to trace the text in its final form around the Warring States period. So even by the time they were compiled, most of these books were already well over 1,000 years old. As with most ancient books, there are always questions regarding their authorship and authenticity. But let's put those questions aside for now and focus on the actual contents. Here is a quick overview of the seven books. Taigong's Six Secret Teachings is the oldest among the bunch. It was attributed to Jiang Ziya, who was alternatively known as Taigong Wang, the minister and strategist of King Wen, who established the Zhou dynasty in the 11th century BCE. After the establishment of the dynasty, Taigong Wang was made the Duke of Qi, and later many people from this state became influential thinkers in ancient China. He is the first great strategist in the history of China, and he was worshipped as the principal god of military, while Confucius is his civil counterpart. He is also featured as the main character of the classic Ming Dynasty fantasy novel, Investiture of the Gods. The methods of Sima is sometimes attributed to Sima Rangju, who served in the state of Qi during the spring and autumn period. He was considered as Jiang Ziya's spiritual successor, but the authorship of this book is still disputed. Sun Tzu's Art of War, or Sun Tzu Bingfa, is commonly attributed to Sun Wu, who lived around the 6th century BCE. He was originally also from Qi until he moved to Wu to serve King He Lu and won him many wars. Wu Zi was written by Wu Qi, a minister and general who served in the state of Zhou during the Warring States period. This text was considered to be equally as important as Sun Tzu's Art of War since the Warring States period. Wei Liaozi is thought to have been written by Wei Liao, one of the advisors of Qin Shi Huang, who conquered all of China and became its first emperor. The Three Strategies of Huang Zigong is commonly believed to be the text received by Zhang Liang from a mysterious old man. Zhang Liang went on to serve Liu Bang as a strategist and helped him establish the Han dynasty. Ancient scholars believe that the old man who gave him the text was from Qi and could be a descendant of Jiang Ziya. The last book in the collection is a dialogue between Tang Taizong, the second emperor of Tang dynasty, and one of his best generals, Li Jing. Tang Taizong is considered as one of the most powerful Chinese emperors of all time, for vastly expanding the Tang Empire and heralded the golden age of China. Okay, now that we have established the significance of these books, let's go into the analysis. By going through them chronologically, we can get an idea of how the contemporary politics and social environment influenced the contents of these respective books. Despite it being the oldest, Taigong's Six Secret Teachings is actually the most complete book. Many of these selected military classics are actually quite holistic. They don't only discuss matters pertaining to the battlefield on the strategic and tactical level, they often also discuss matters in the ruling policy level. And this book states that the creation of a strong military begins with the disposition of the ruler. A moral and virtuous ruler who is benevolent will inspire the trust of the people, and in turn, the army. Civil policies can also become weapons of war when it is used to undermine enemy alliances and bribe their ministers. In general, this book has a pretty complete coverage of almost every aspect of warfare, from the moral governance of the ruler to rewards and punishment, appointment of officers, recruitment and training of soldiers, strategy, schemes and deceptions, tactics, all the way to equipments. Just to clarify, the stars I use for my evaluation here doesn't represent the quality of the instruction. It just represents how much emphasis they put into the respective aspects of warfare. It is important to note, however, that this book is a product of its time, and superstition was still a very prominent part of decision-making. Divination and the appointment of shamans is treated like everyday business. Many of the equipments and tactics discussed in here would also be outdated, because stirrups weren't invented during that time yet. So the cavalry tactics may no longer be as relevant in the Song dynasty, and the role of war chariots had already been greatly diminished since the Han dynasty. The Methods of Sima, in my opinion, is the least interesting book among the bunch. It is really a pared-down version of Taigong's ideas, while placing more emphasis on the administration and appointment of the right kinds of officers. Sun Tzu's Art of War shifts the focus towards strategy and tactics. It departs from previous works by putting less emphasis on matters on the policy level, and it is tremendously pragmatic. To him, the morality of the ruler is only a means to achieve the trust of the army and to get them to fight to death. He also openly discussed plunder as part of his strategy, and he had no time for those benevolence mumbo-jumbo. He approached warfare in a proto-scientific way. Superstition and divination has no place in warfare. Accurate information can only be acquired through espionage. And deception is the essence of warfare. What makes Sun Tzu's Art of War very useful compared to the rest is that it is really easy to understand. Besides the formatting that makes the text easier to read, he also explained the rationale behind his instructions. So that's why the book stayed relevant up till today, because we can apply those elementary principles to other projects. Some scholars argued that the art of war is not the creation of a single individual, but it is the result of a long line of military tradition, attributed to the same name. So the text that we have today is a condensed version of centuries of ancient military wisdom. Wuzi is considered to be the equal of Sun Tzu's.
Isn't it wild how this we as humans sit down and we have something called the art of war? See, I'm not into the war thing. I was an incidental war person, if you want to call it that, right? But it's crazy how we create knowledge that we use to hurt each other. And I know, I understand. Listen, I understand. Human beings going to be like that. Of course, there's external situations that create that, like money, power, greed, all that stuff. Now, I don't know if that's why they wrote that, because I mean back then everybody was attacking everybody. Everybody the world was growing, and the world as they know it was growing. So everybody want power, and everybody want the natural minerals and stuff that the world have to offer. All the trading going on, who have the best trading going on rules the world back then, and of course the military is backing that up to keep it stable. But man, I just can't see myself sitting down writing a book on how to fight war. I could sit down and write a book on how to bring peace. As a matter of fact, I think about that all the time in my head. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that might sound cliche, I don't know, but these days I don't hear anybody talking about peace much anymore. Where I am, I'm seeing people walking around with guns in the holster, talking about nuke this, bomb this. So-called good people are talking about if somebody come in my house, I got something for him, I'll shoot him up and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So in essence, there's no art of war in that. Now, is that indigenous to human nature to want to think like that? Or is it, how should I put down, what word am I looking for here? You know what I mean? Or is it the way the culture is and thing, you know what I mean? Because okay, we had two revolutions and a war back home, and I'll be honest with you, I ain't never heard nobody talk about shooting nobody, even during then, and it was happening. I didn't hear anybody about blowing up anything. Well, maybe I'm not privy to it, but no, I like to think I got it wrong a little bit down there. You know what I mean? But I never heard anybody say let's just blow it up. I never heard anything like that. You know what I mean? So I guess it's just a matter of culture. Also, we got to take into consideration, I'm from a little itty bitty island. Where you want to blow up? Your own family, you know what I mean? Because I could walk my country in a day. But the art of war, interesting. Possibly a good read and everything like that. But I would love to know the mindset of the person, of this gentleman who wrote that. And I'm not condemning him by no stretch of the imagination, don't get me wrong. Obviously, it played an important part in history because we're still using it today. And like they said in the video earlier, they're still using it not just for war, but it could apply to other areas of life. Now, let's convert it into that and forget the war. Let's use the strategies bring forth in these books to better the human race in other things but the art of war. That's what I'm going to say here. Let's watch this here. Let's check this out.
Ancient military wisdom. Wu Zi is considered to be the equal of Sun Tzu's Art of War, but in reality it is a complementary text. They are often read together because what Sun Tzu is lacking in the policy level, Wu Zi more than makes up for it. Besides leading armies, the author of this book, Wu Qi, was also a successful administrative reformer. He successfully reduced corruption and built up the state of Chu's army. He considered the military to be essential to the preservation of the state, and conversely, the right kind of policy is necessary to help the army thrive. To develop a strong military, a ruler needs to go beyond establishing an effective reward and punishment system. You also need to create a strong military culture where warriors are glorified. The book also goes into other topics, but the interesting thing here is that he considered divination as a regular tool of the army. But this is the last time that we will ever see the use of divination in war. Superstition no longer has any place in warfare in later books, and divination was even heavily discouraged. Wei Liaozi once again put more emphasis on the policy.
He said superstition. Now, does that include, and I know most people don't think of a religion as superstition, but it is believing in something that you don't see. So, superstition is something that you don't see but still believe in it, right? For some people. So, are we saying that the Bible don't have no place, or religious or spiritual belief don't have no place in war? So then, Why is everybody talking about God or Allah or whatever whenever there is war? If that stuff, I personally think that war is mainly human. Okay, let me break it down this way. When I was growing up, whenever we talk about the Bible and stuff, it was always about peace and love and helping your fellow man and, Ten Commandment type vibe. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet, that kind of stuff there. That's what I was raised with. Now, when I look on television, it's just like they want to kill everybody else that doesn't believe. I ain't even exaggerating. Because I talk to a lot of Christians, and they just, oh, we can't stand those Muslims. Oh, we can't stand this person. No, we can't stand. There's no talk of love. No, I don't know much about Islam. Well, I know quite a bit, but I don't know. I'm not around Islamic people enough to know how they feel. I have a lot of Islamic friends, but we really don't discuss that part of things. But nowadays it's a war on everything. War on Christmas. War on crime. War on drugs, war on this. It's always a war, you know what I mean? But there's no art of it. It's just a matter of like down pressing people, you know what I mean? And make them do what you want. What did I remember Trump, the president here, saying one time about Syria, why don't we just blow them up and take the oil? You know what I mean? So then it doesn't have anything to do with patriotism. It doesn't have anything to do with a religious fervor. It's just the material things. I want that. I mean, I could take it. You know what I mean? But let's just keep going here. You got to question those things. You know what I mean? And a spiritual war. I don't think there's a spiritual war. I think there's religious wars. But from my thinking, and of course this is an opinion, when you talk about spirituality, it should be something peaceful, it should be something gentle, you know what I'm saying? But let's keep going here. I talked enough.
Once again, put more emphasis on the policy level. He argued that the virtue of the ruler and the discipline of the army are the key ingredients to a strong army. He goes into great length into training the army to listen to orders properly and encourage the generals to treat the soldiers as their equals. Why would anyone risk their lives for you if you treat them like dirt? In certain respects,
Yep, I know some managers that need that.
Confusion. The three strategies of Wang Zigong, on the other hand, took a very Taoistic approach. It emphasizes on flexibility, and I guess you could even say moral flexibility. And maybe that's why Zhang Liang advised Liu Bang to break his promises and treaties multiple times. Instead of requiring the ruler to be a moral beacon for the people, it advised them to treat the people as they are and motivate and even manipulate them according to their nature. Whether they are brave, greedy, or even foolish, as long as you know how to deal with them, they can be used to your advantage. It is a short book that is mainly focused on how to use people. Before we proceed to the last military classic, let's take a look at the Roman book De Re Militare.
Okay, let's see what the Romans have to offer.
This multi-volume book was written by Publius Flavius Vegetitus Renatus.
Wow, that's a lot of names.
In the late 4th century CE. Unlike those Chinese military classics, this book doesn't say anything regarding matters on the policy level. It is mainly concerned with the practical aspect of organizing a military from the ground up.
Hence they ruled the world for so long.
Soldiers to recruit and the various equipments and tactics they should be trained in. Other Roman military books also seem to be mainly concerned with things on the tactical and strategic level. It seems that there is a clear divide between the Senate and the military, even though Rome was already ruled by emperors during the time the book was written. There is not much said on the use of spies and subterfuge either. I guess it kind of makes sense, since the Romans mainly fought enemies from vastly different cultures. I don't think a Roman senator could go to the Gauls and become a minister there, or even be an insider informant. The different states during the Song dynasty and all the way to the early Han had similar cultures. There might be variations in the written character and local dialects, but the difference is small enough to allow ministers to regularly travel to another state to find employment. However, these kind of schemes became less relevant in China too, during the Tang dynasty, when their main adversaries became people from vastly different cultures with limited diplomatic accessibility, such as the Go Turks. So perhaps that's why questions and replies between Tang Taizong and Li Jing focused mainly on unit organization, tactics, and equipment.
I don't know
This is a
you.
question and answer
Let's just
format,
fight.
where Tang Taizong would ask Li Jing a question, and the general would elucidate him with a brilliant reply. This book makes a great final reading because it discusses the lessons taught in all those other classics and how they can be synthesized to address contemporary situations. For example, the Tang art.
Now I would read that book, but I would apply it to everyday life, taking great care not to use the side that overpowers people. Maybe try to use it to empower people. Gosh, I'm sounding like some kind of a what you call it? What you call it? Motivational speaker. Yeah, I ain't no motivational speaker. I'm just a human being up in here. You know what I mean? And thing, but it is what we interpret it to be because like I said, when I was younger, the Bible was all about love and peace and stuff, and nowadays it's all about fire, brimstone, and we ain't gonna be the strongest and the best, and we're gonna like bust you up if you don't do what we say. You know what I mean? Now I know you all may say that that's not true, but I'm just talking about my experience with dealing with it. I may give you some stories that make your hair stand up, you know what I mean? When it comes to like religious people. But maybe we could use it for something that would help us more than create immigrants, people fearing for their life. Because it sucks being afraid for your life, you know what I'm saying? Especially when you're in a situation where you know you can't win. And even if you survive, things are going to be so bad, you got to migrate somewhere. That's not why I came here, but yesterday I watched a video on Belarus where they had, it was Iraqis, Yemenis, and Syrians on the border. They were just used as pawns, these migrants, you know what I mean? Because sanctions were put on Belarus. But war creates all kinds of stuff. It creates more problems than it solves them. Now, the people who won the war might have some measure of peace for a while, but sooner or later they're going to start fighting among themselves. We're seeing that happening right now. Yep, where I am, beat them up, shoot them down, bomb them. Create massive division within the people because it's probably not right to be shooting them up. Anyway, let's watch this here.
Army preferred to use barbarian cavalry and Han crossbowmen. This is considered conventional warfare because it capitalized on the respective units' strong suit. But in situations where unconventional warfare is recommended, as according to the other classics, they can easily turn it into unconventional by switching the banners and
Wait, did I go miss something
the
here?
text has a bit of Taoist bent in general.
Nah.
While it makes sense, since early Tang dynasty was more influenced by Taoism rather than Buddhism, Buddhism only became more influential later. And the reason why Taoism was more influential was kind of funny actually. The royal family believed that they descended from Lao Tzu, the author of Taoism's most important text, Tao Te Ching. And that's just because they share the same surname, Li.
I'm gonna have to
Lao
do
Tzu's
something on
personal name was
Taoism.
Li Er, and Tang
I'm gonna have
Taizong's
to
was
check
Li
out that.
Siming. Obviously, the 7 military classics are not the only military books that was ever written in China. There are also more practical military books that feature formations, siege weapons, and early gunpowder weaponry, such as Wu Jing Zhong Yao. Around the same time, the 7 military classics were compiled. There are also other strategic classics, such as the 36 Stratagems, which is filled to the brim with schemes and deceptions. I highly recommend this one. It is an interesting read. The reason why these 7 books were chosen was most likely due to the Song dynasty favoring civil officials over military. In this period, even the highest military positions were reserved to civil officials. And perhaps it was due to this that the empire became one of the most prosperous countries in the world at the time, if not the most. However, this period was also the weakest dynasty militarily due to the corruption and distrust of the military. It wasn't until the later half of the period, during the Southern Song dynasty, that they regained strength and was able to defend against the main forces of the Mongol Empire for over 14 years. I guess in the end, reading all those war manuals is kinda useless unless you put it into practice, eh? Anyway, hope you guys found my analysis to be useful. I am CJ, and we release a video on this channel every week.
Like he said, they're useless unless you put them into practice. Maybe you could just put them into practice for something else. And I know some people are going, why are you watching stuff about the military if you don't, like it, or you don't believe in wars that much? Now, I saw an old saying that says that wise is the man who studies everything and knows a little bit about everything and apply that to his day-to-day life without hurting others. So you learn something from everything, right? And that's how I live my life, you know what I mean? I could have stayed on my little island in paradise, lay on the beach, keep my nice dark charcoal color skin, but I wanted to learn stuff. So I did traveling, and then I came here and I plan to do some more traveling. What is life if you don't learn and learn and learn? I want to keep learning until I die, because there's just so much to learn, right? People just sit around and live. I just want to keep learning more stuff, I don't know what I was about to say I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but maybe what I learn, I could help others around me. I ain't trying to save the world, trust me. That's futile right now. I don't even talk about politics anymore, because it's not fixing anything. But that's the reason why I watch a lot of military stuff and all of that. No, this year is interesting. I'm not gonna sit here and watch tanks shoot off and guns shoot off and gunplay and all of that stuff there. Been there, done that. Wasn't fun. So I don't want to do that. But anyway, man, thank you all for watching this with me. If you're not subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification button so you know when I'm putting out videos and thing, alright? Come on now, join the family. Let's hang out. Comment down below. If you don't agree with me, let me have it. If you agree with me, let's go. Tell me about it. Tell me what you think, okay? Y'all take care of each other. Cool runnings.